my history net. Don't know much about my art.
Great. Welcome back. So glad you didn't ditch me. All right, so now we're going to talk about what makes a blog a blog. And whenever I say this, I always think of like the scene with in Pirates of the Caribbean where Captain Jack Sparrow is explaining what a ship is versus what a ship needs. And he's always like, a ship needs a keel and a hull and sails, but what a ship is freedom. Anyway, uh, I didn't mean for that to be so dramatic. Anyhow, it's sort of the same thing with a blog. So what a blog needs to be a blog is a branding or a logo or a masthead. I'm going to show you some blogs here in a minute. It needs your most recent posts. It needs brief info about the post. It needs archives by date and category. It needs a blog role, which we'll talk about, and then it needs permalinks. Those are the things that make up a blog technically. But what a blog is for the people that use it is it's new information, and so it's more frequent than like a web page. It's content, original or otherwise, and when I say original, I mean things that you've created and put up there. Otherwise would be like things that you found on the internet and thought would be interesting. And so you put, no cats though. Don't ever put cats on your blog. I'm just warning you right now. You'll fail straight away. And a lot of times there's so much information on the internet, uh, you know, that bloggers, even for your business, don't necessarily always have to be the generators of original content. I think a lot of the times that the reason that people like blogs is because the people that are in charge of them act as curators of the internet. And so you sort of, and I'll say that again, like you don't always have to be original. You can be a curator. And so what it is when people like sort of, latch on to whatever your brand is, they buy in. They're like, oh, this is a life, style blog for me. Then it becomes like you go to that for information, even if it isn't original, because you may not have found it elsewhere. So these people sort of put it all in one place. I think Tractor Supply is trying to, like, in addition to selling chains and toolboxes and stuff, is trying to sort of brand themselves as sort of a lifestyle business. They have their magazine called Out There Magazine, and I think they have a blog too. We should look it up. And in that way, they kind of act as curators of all the stuff on the web, and so people that identify with that kind of lifestyle, they come to them for good stories and information and stuff, and then consequently, hopefully, they go buy their chains and toolboxes at Tractor Supply. A blog is also immediacy. Like there's lots of new information all the time. It's available anytime, and it's participatory, so you can leave comments in a way, and feel a part of this blog community. This is cheesy, I know, versus with a website, it's kind of like I'm the website. I have a space bubble. Get away from me. All right. So here's a really terrible blog that I made in 2011. I really need to update this PowerPoint. Anyway, and so you can see across the top in red in Indian River County 4-H, that's what we call the masthead. Over, the main part here where it says announcements, this is the recent posts. Apparently I've not posted in a while, April 18th, 2011. Everyone announcements. What is even happening here? Oh, it's county events night. All of you that were in 4-H should know what that is. It's where you show up and give a speech, and it's really awkward. Oh, there's a cocktail party, $50 at the door. Last year we raised $20,000. How about that? I forgot about that. Anyway, over here we have the About Me section, and then more importantly, this is the blog archive, which I told you all about. And so this one happens to be organized by year. Nobody ever read my blog, and so I quit using it. Sometimes you have to think of your audience, and my audience in Indian River County did not want a blog, and so I gave up on it. Anyhow, so let's look at some way better blogs. Here's that guy, Mikhail de Montaigne. This is him right here that I told you about in the last video. Let's see. So, who knew that the Huffington Post was actually a blog? It's actually the #1 blog in America. Here's a list of the top 15, in fact. So it looks like 110 million monthly visitors. This is pretty insane. TMZ, Business Insider, Mashable, Gizmodo, all of these things, make my life better. My favorite isn't on the list, and that is BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed is also considered a thing. We already talked about the Times Magazine. This is actually my blog, the Klutzer Dispatch. Isn't that cheesy? Anyhow, that's the New York Times again. Never mind. That's Mikel de Montaigne. So, also Technorati, which we talked about, BuzzFeed, the Huffington Post. Some Kind of Awesome. Let's see if that's still up here. Awesome. This is my friend's blog. It's called SCOA for short. And she is in New York and blogs about music. And so if you're ever into this really, hipster sort of music, please go here and read her blog. She's a cool chick. Anyhow, let's go back to this. Let's see here. Now, let's talk about setting up your own blog. We'll go ahead and do that in this video. So this is really interesting to me. This is where most blogs are set up. Choosing a provider is an important thing, and it says a lot about you. 84% of people fall into this WordPress or Google Blogspot or Blogger. Google bought it out and changed the name. I can't remember which one it is. I use WordPress. Most people in all categories are in this. If you are on LiveJournal, it means that you were an early adopter, possibly an English major, and are in your early 40s now. If you're on Tumblr, it means that you're not good with words. I don't know what Squarespace is. I built it myself in HTML from scratch. This means that you don't have a girlfriend. And then someone else built it for me in HTML from scratch. This means that you're really wealthy. And then I don't know what other is. So for most of us, we're going to be over here in this WordPress / Google blog or Blogspot. And so you need to pick which one you want to. Here are some the breakdown. WordPress, the first thing that you need to know is that there's WordPress.com, which is, they're the same company, but .com is for people that want to blog. And so you just go and you sign up. WordPress.org is for people that want to use it to build websites. And I'll show you actually right here. Let's go to Florida 4-H website. I spelled it wrong, but it still works. This is a website that I helped set up, and it's actually, it looks like a website, right? But it's actually hosted by WordPress, pretty sure. And so, unless they've changed it. And I'm not saying this is the best website. We could definitely do better. Like, what is this Children of the Corn child? He's like, I'm going to get you. Or like somebody's chasing him. I don't know. Anyhow, I know these kids. Okay, sorry. This was fun. So WordPress is my favorite. It offers customization, a bajillion little gadgets that can go into it, everything from like page visits to, like sending you to different links and stuff. It also allows you to customize your site name. So you can actually, register a domain if you're really into that, and then have it direct to your WordPress site. And I feel like it's more professional, at least in terms of the designs that you can have. So Blogger over here, on contrary, it is way easy to set up. Like basically, if you know your name and can click next 5 times, you can set up a Blogger account. It's free. You don't need to host it. WordPress actually is free as well. There's absolutely no coding involved. Your website will turn up like your site name.blogspot.com, and then has AdSense built in, which is a sort of a metric thing for measuring who visits you. WordPress has this as well. I would encourage you to check out both of them. WordPress is my favorite. So let's talk about, first thing that you need to do is choose a domain name / title. And so your title is really important. So I encourage you to stop and think about it, because it's how people are going to remember you. So it has to be, and you can't change it once you get it set up either. And so it should represent both your blog's name and your purpose. And it should be also based on searchable keywords. So that, whenever those Google little spider things are crawling around the internet trying to index stuff, it will put it with the right other things, so that when people are searching for whatever the thing is, they will also find your site. And it also has to be memorable. And so this is where you get to get creative. And so I have some really lame ones here. AdamsRidiculousBlog.com, AdamsRidiculousBlog.blogspot.com. That's not a really good one. Neither is the Klutzer Dispatch for that, for that matter, but I like it. So whenever you think of, like we've had some really good ones in this class that I've always been impressed. So I won't try to bias you. So just try to be creative, but know that when you're being creative, like you're searching for that balance between things that are memorable and fun, but also things that are searchable and have actual real words in them. So here's some blogs online now and what they might say about you. Laughing Squid is for hipsters that own fixies. You know, Jezebel is a kind of a feminist blog. Um, and anyway, some of you won't get this. The next thing that you need to write is you're about the author. We're going to be doing this in class as part of an activity, and we'll pull this slide back up then. But basically, it's a really brief bio about you that should interest people and cast you in a certain light. And you can think of it as sort of like the book jacket cover, like whenever you open up a book. I don't know if you've had read a book lately, but when you open it up, usually on the inside of it, there's like a picture and then a little bit about the author thing. It's like that, but it's way shorter, 60 to 80 words, because again, on the internet, you're competing with so much other information, and people have the attention spans of goldfish. And so here's what your 60 to 80 words should do. It should introduce you. It should tell what you're interested in and why you might be an expert on that topic. And for whatever reason, whenever you write this, you should write it in the third person. And I have theories on why. You would think you'd write it in the first person because it's about you and it's an autobiography. But I think whenever you write it in the third person, it gives the impression that like you paid somebody to write about you. So here are some fun ones that I found on the internet. Jeremy was born with 6 toes on each foot. The extra toes were removed before he was a year old, robbing him of any superpowers and ending his crime-fighting career before it even began. I don't know what that guy does, but he's kind of creepy. The second one is a little bit more down to earth. John Phillips is a designer, developer, typography lover, and musician. He is also the founder of Spire Studios. It sounds like he's trying to get a date. Anyway, Joe Falconer wasn't always a cubicle dweller. There was a time when he worked in his pajamas at home as a freelance writer. Now he works at a desk in a button-up shirt. Anyway, so you see here how it kind of tells you a little bit about these people and then, a little bit in a fun way about their background. These are funny ones because I like funny ones. You don't necessarily have to be funny, but you do have to meet these 3 things here. Introduce yourself, tell what you're interested in, and why or why not you might be an expert on the topic. Great. Tips for everyday blogging. All right. What do I blog about? This is a big question that I always get. And for you guys in your groups, this is going to be an individual project, so each of you are going to write a blog post. Let me stress this again. You're going to create one blog, have multiple blog posts. Hopefully that isn't too much for you to get your mind around. And so you want to think about things that are going to advance like your cause or business. And so, just for example, like we had some Sierra Club groups last year. They, wrote about different campaigns, or they wrote about, how adorable pandas are. We had a lot of Southern States magazines last year. They adopted, or magazines, Southern States as organizations last year. And what they did, which I thought was interesting, they all sort of took a different tact. One of them wrote about more lifestyle things, like sort of, human interest, like these people live in the country and this is what it's like to be their life. Another group took a different tack and they decided that they were going to make their blog posts all sort of self-help stuff, and so they were like, oh, it's time to get your seed for, corn in the ground and come on into Tractor Supply because we got some great corn seed, like that kind of thing. In the blogosphere in general, most people write about hobbies or interests. About 60% of all blogs fall into this. The other rest write about politics. Some write specialized news, sort of like pointing out the strange, like fun things. That's really up my alley. And then the personal diary style, if you'd like to share your feelings. Do not share your feelings in this class. Here's Tumblr. Here's a joke about Tumblr. Everybody should dislike Tumblr. All right. How often do I write is another question, and the answer is frequently. And so, if you're a professional blogger, you'll write about 2 to 3 times per week. Like if you're the lone person at your organization, whatever that is, and you've been hired to blog, among other things. If you communication, you want to update your blog 2 to 3 times a week. You also want to, like the usefulness of this comes from its timeliness. Like people, they like the frequency, they like the immediacy, and so that's why they check back. So you always want to try to have something new and meaningful to show, something that's still relevant. Blog posts have a shelf life, just like every other news. And so if your blog posts are getting stale, you're doing a bad job as a blogger. Whenever we say 2 to 3 times per week, we mean also that it's supposed to be regular. And so if you think about a TV series, and shout out to The Walking Dead because they're totally guilty of this. Like if somebody tried to release a TV series with, they release like 7 episodes in a week, and then we take 3 weeks off, and then we come back and we post a episode, and then we come back in a month, and then we post like 8 other episodes, like that. Like infrequency and sort of hit and miss will drive people crazy. They're like, we don't know when to check your site because sometimes it's months before we get new material, and then other times there's so much material I can't keep up with. So you want to try to pace it, and so that's why, of course, most things come out, 2 to 3 times a week, or if it's a TV show, once a week. Unless it's on Netflix, and then everybody just binge watches it. There's no real consensus. You'll find this at the bottom of most slides, and that's because the blog sphere is so wide and so divergent that people, there isn't a real consensus. But there are some sort of like best practices, and that's what we want to give you for this class. Here is like a breakdown. 74% of bloggers have posted once a year, 54% 3 months, in the last 24 hours, 11%. That's just kind of interesting to me. Here's another question that I get all the time. How formal should I be in my blog? And I'll tell you that, again, there's no real consensus because everything runs the gamut. But when we think back to Fat P definitely applies here. And so it depends on your topic and it depends on your audience, okay? And so, if your topic is about like motherhood, if you're one of those mommy bloggers, you're going to get to be really like informal and conversational and casual. However, for you all, for your business, if you are the World Wildlife Fund, or you are the county fair, or you are, I got to work on remembering what the rest of your things were. You want to match in tone what people would expect from your organization. And so, there's no right way to do that, but there's definitely a wrong way. And if you would like to talk about it, we can talk about that in class. And then also think about like what your audience wants to hear, like who are your who are your people, like what is their reading level, what is their knowledge level. Again, Fat P. In general, though, the blog should be a little bit more personal and informal than other styles. Not quite as formal as a newsletter, definitely not quite as formal as a press release. It's a little bit like a let your hair down kind of area. And then, like we've talked about in other classes, there's a transaction between writer and reader. Just because you're more informal and you're more personal does not mean that you get to write sloppy. And so you want to make your writing still succinct, and still good material and still organized well, because you don't want to break that transaction between writer and reader where you begin wasting their time. So don't write like you do in text, like, oh my God, facepalm, and then always proofread. Let's go. When do I post? This is a really interesting one. And this, again, depends on your audience and what your topic was. And so you want to think about, when do people visit your blog? And so, an easy way to do this is, once you've been blogging for a while, you can actually go to, and, assuming people read it, you can actually go to the analytics within WordPress or within Blogspot, and see like about what time of day people visit your blog. And then if it looks like, if your people are farmers and they're checking it early in the morning and like really late at night because that's when they're home, then that's the time that you want to post. And so in my example of mommy bloggers, they found that the sweet spot for posting for people that want to read about being a mom and childcare stuff, that the ideal time to post is between 2 and 4 in the afternoon, and that's because it's nap time, and that's when people get to read their blogs if they're a mommy blogger. Anyhow, don't be a mommy blogger. All right, in our next video, we're going to talk about writing for blogs and how it's different, but I feel like this is good enough for now. All right, let's stop. Move on.
Don't know much about the science bootleg. Don't know much about the French